afternoon and welcome to the Sports Box, where the only opinion that matters is right here. I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hamilton Mike, along with my partner Brian, the Ranger Tard. Brian, how you doing this fine day?
I am fantastic. A little cold in the Jersey area these days.
It's a little chilly down here.
A little chilly.
When you have a concrete studio, it's a little bit chilly, but let's get started. We got some great content today. Today we're going to do Beat the Birds, and guess what, folks? It's Giants week, Eagles fans. So we're going to talk to our pal, our Giant affiliate, to break down how the Giants, we'll have to show up, can beat the Birds this week. Tony Tenuselli. Tony, you on the line?
Yes, I am, guys. How are you?
Oh, Tony, great to have you. Beautiful content as usual on the Sports Box. Let's get right to it. How are the Giants going to beat the Birds? Let's talk about the offense a little bit, Tony. Eli Manning, everybody says he keeps getting older, He's going to lose a step a little bit. He's actually had a decent year, along with the running game's been a little bit shaky and the wide receivers have been good. What does the Giants have to do on offense? Just a minor note to, beat the Birds this week. What do you think?
Well, you know what? If you watch the Giants the last couple of weeks, you've seen that McAdoo has definitely tried to establish the run game early. He did it against Dallas. They did it last week against Detroit. They've had a lot of ups and downs with that this year, but I think the last 2 weeks, his commitment to it has paid off because they've been able to run the ball a little better, which says a lot because I think going into the Dallas game, we were like 30th out of 32 teams in running the ball. They need that balance, especially with the cold weather. I mean, playing at home last week against Detroit, cold. Philly this week at night, cold. And then in Washington, cold. So, they got to do it because Eli has not been too sharp the last few weeks. So they got to establish the run. They got to be able to do both against the Eagles on Thursday.
You talk about McAdoo a little bit. He has changed it up a little bit. In that Steelers game, it was kind of odd that they were only down at some point 6 points in the game, 3 points in the game, and he continually went for it on fourth down inside the 30-yard line. I don't understand that, but like you said, he's gotten a little bit better. I don't think he has to be that dramatic against the Eagles, but I think McAdoo, like you said, has gotten a little bit better with the play calling.
Yeah, listen, I'm a firm believer right now of the way the offense is and the way the line is, and the line's a little better now that Pugh's back. They got a goal of 100 yards rushing a game. I think they should be able to, win the game. If they're going to put up, like they were earlier in the year, 40, 50, 60 yards a game, they're going to have problems.
Coming into the year, Tony, I think that the biggest questions the Giants had were on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody kind of figured offensively, Eli and Odell would get things rolling there, but you got to give the Giants an absolute ton of credit. They've held two of the NFC's best teams by record, Dallas and Detroit, to 7 and 6 respectively in their last two games. That's for a team that was much maligned defensively coming into the year, I think their offseason additions have helped quite a bit. And you look at an Eagles team that's really struggling offensively, not a lot of weapons on the outside. Is there anything that you look at this Eagles team and say, you know what, that makes me nervous, looking at how the Giants have played defensively the past couple of weeks?
You know what? No. To be honest with you, and I hate to say it because it'll come back and bite you. But you know what? Let me say this. First of all the Giants guys that they signed in the offseason, Olivier Vernon, Snacks Harrison, the Jackrabbit, all three of those guys have paid off big time. And that's very odd to see in free agency year. You've seen the Eagles over the years, the Redskins over the years sign these high-priced guys, and half of them are busts, or they're over the hill. These guys have all done the job. What I would say, looking at the Eagles this week, the Eagles lack, I think, one big thing, they lack weapons, okay? And you can see Wentz, I saw the other day that in the second half of the season, Wentz has like the third worst quarterback rating in the NFL. Okay, so now the Giants secondary, I think, is one of the top 2 or 3 in the league right now. I don't think they're going to have much of a problem. I think you look at, everybody's giving Landon Collins a big push for being in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. You know what? He's done a great job, but I will say, the MVP of the Giants' defense is Snacks Harrison. He clogs up the middle. You guys look, they shut down Elliott the second half of the Cowboy game 2 weeks ago. Detroit, only had about 50, 60 yards rushing. It's very tough to run against the Giants. So between that and then the Eagles not having the weapons, I think, to counteract the Giants' secondary, to be honest with you, I think the Eagles are going to have a tough time scoring points this week.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, the Giants have not played in high-scoring games this year. Neither them nor their opponent has broken 30 points in any game they've played so far this season. And an interesting statistic is there's only been one team that's averaged fewer than 20 points per game and gotten into the playoffs in the past 5 years, and that was Arizona in 14. The Giants right now are 19.4, so it looks like they're going to be the second team to do it. They're going to rely on that defense quite a bit, and they're going to be seeing a lot of these teams that they've beaten probably in the playoffs, and what could be one of those, you know, under-the-radar runs that the Giants have been known to do. Is when you look at the Giants offensively, again, they haven't scored as many points as you would think that they would with Eli Manning and a guy like Odell Beckham, and I think that's probably due to, as we've spoken about before, being so low in rushing yards per game. Shane Vereen's back on IR now. Is this going to be still like a hot hand, or do you see Jennings or Perkins kind of getting a little bit more than the other? I mean, is this going to be like just, you know, ride whoever's hot, because it hasn't worked so far this year?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you had told me in the beginning of the season that the Giants defense would be carrying them compared to the offense, I would have said you were crazy. Going in this week, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Perkins get more carries than Jennings. Jennings just seems to, you know, he's not hitting the hole fast enough. He's hesitating. I mean, you know, none of his runs have been impressive. I think he averaged a little over 2 yards a carry this past week. You know, the young kid Perkins has continued to get a little bit more of a workload increase, and he's done pretty well. He's slippery. You know, he is somewhat strong. You know, he's not strictly an outside the tackle guy. You know, they'll run him inside too. I think the loss of Vereen again is just terrible. I mean, you know what? When he's on the field, he makes things happen. I just could not believe that I heard the news this morning that he was going to be out for the season again. You know, the kid Perkins, listen, he's good. You know, he's just got to be tested. And I think the Giants need to use these last two games to see if he can take a little bit more of a workload. They need that. I mean, you know, it complements the running game. If you guys, listen, you guys have watched any of Eli's last 3-4 games, he struggled. Yeah, he looked good. He looked good on Sunday. You know, he started off, I think, 11 for 11, but after that, the wind picked up, and he was about 50% the rest of the game. And again, with these weather conditions down the end of the season, they've got to, you know, either use the running game or the short passing game, and that's how they're going to be successful, and then take their shots down the field.
What's funny is I was going to talk to you a little bit, Tony, about the defense, but when you guys were talking about this, the loss of, you know, Vereen does hurt because the Giants have been going back and forth with running back situation all year. But you talk about Perkins stepping in and being a good fill-in for him. You got the ex-Buccaneer Bobby Rainey back there. I think the Giants need to go out in the offseason and maybe get a running back or a veteran running back to fill in. Because they've had running back issues, but you know what? With the 3 wide receivers they have, even you talk about MVPs. I mean, Sterling Shepard's having a phenomenal year, along with obviously Odell Beckham, and even the tight end Will Tye. So I think that when you look at the running back situation with the Giants, it's overshadowed by they have good wide receivers. So you really load up the box. They don't have any running backs. You can't shut the wide receivers down.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean they've been talking here all the last 2 weeks about the Giants using an extra tight end, going to a 6-man line and taking one of the receivers off the field, which would probably be Cruz, you know, to help the running game. But you know what? My theory is the way the line has been this year and the way the running game's been, leave the 3 wide receivers on the field, spread the field, and hopefully lessen that pressure in the box and give these guys a little opportunity to run. You know, I think by going to a 6-man line, you're inviting more guys in the box, and these guys don't run block well. So, you know, I think they just got to keep going what they're going with and then evaluate it in the offseason. Like you said, maybe another running back. Giants definitely need another lineman and go from there.
And the last thing I have, Tony, is you look at the defense and you look at the beginning of the year how they were going to be, you know, they beefed up the defense. They were supposed to be as good, maybe not as good as they are now. But you look at the loss last week or the week before of Jason Pierre-Paul, people were thinking, it's going to be a big, big hole there and everything. This kid has stepped in there, Romeo Okwara. He's been a monster. He's been phenomenal for them. I mean, talk about a kid stepping up and really taking a part. I mean, you're talking about rushing Detroit last week. He's really stepped up and played well.
Yeah, listen, big surprise. I mean, listen, that kid, I saw him in the summer. He looked pretty good. He looked fast. again, he had to learn the game. And trust me, I was the first guy raising my hand when JPP went down and said, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem. And listen, the 2 games he's missed, they've given up 13 points combined. So, knock on wood, that continues. But they are, hopefully by the time the playoffs come and, maybe he's got a shot to get back and help. But they will need him back at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and looking ahead, we're getting very close to the playoffs here. I don't think it's any, and the Giants are going to be there. You look at the teams that they're likely to play, and in all likelihood, the Giants are pretty much slotted into the 5 seed at this point. That's the most likely scenario. So they're going to get a division winner, whether it's the NFC South or the NFC North. Outside shot to Seattle, but I don't really see that. So you're probably going to end up playing, Detroit, Green Bay, Atlanta, or maybe those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were helped quite a bit by the Redskins putting up an offer on Monday night.
Thank you, Washington.
Of the teams that I listed there, Tony, is there anybody who stands out to you as a team that you think the Giants would fare better against or worse against? Not that you have the chance to pick your opponent here, but if you could, anybody that you want to avoid or anybody that you'd welcome in a playoff game?
Well, I'll put it this way. Out of those 4 teams that they potentially play in the first round, they're all going to be away games. So, you look at the venue. Listen, Tampa has impressed me. I kind of a little disappointed in them Sunday night against Dallas. I had them as one of my best bets of the week. They did cover the spread, I think, so that was good.
They did.
That's always a good fallback. Winston's impressed me. I think Tampa Bay would be tough. I do not fear the Lions. Green Bay, listen, you know what? I don't think Green Bay is, they've won 4 in a row. Their defense doesn't scare me. Giants have won twice there in the playoffs. Not a problem.
They need a running attack, too, as well, though. That's the problem with Green Bay.
They do. I look at Atlanta. Atlanta can throw up a lot of points. I think that would be a great challenge for the Giant defense.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, look at any of those 4 matchups, they could go either way. The team that I'm glad that's being pushed away a little bit, lock up that 2 seed is Seattle. I just see the Giants going to Seattle in January as probably their toughest foe.
Yeah.
So push Seattle away as far as possible, as far as I'm concerned. But, any of those 4 teams, I think it would be a good matchup. I think the Giants would probably have the easiest time maybe beating Detroit. Theo Riddick's been in and out. I think if he's healthy, it would cause a problem for the Giants. Toughest, listen, a lot of people are saying Atlanta, but I think the 2 toughest teams would be for the Giants would be 1, Tampa, and 2, Green Bay.
Yep. I agree. So I guess we're going to put you in the spot. I think I know the answer to this. But I'm going to ask you the question anyway. So in a pivotal Week 16 matchup, again, I pretty much think the Giants would actually lock up. Actually, if they haven't already, they would lock up the 5 seed and hope for Dallas to somehow lose these last 2 games. But will the New York Giants go into Lincoln Financial Field and get a win against the struggling Eagles team?
You know what? Yeah, listen, I think the Giants will win, but I think it'll be a little tougher than people think. A lot of everybody up here just think right now assumes the Giants are just going to go down there and roll over them. But you know what? It's a short week. Travel's not really a big deal, being it's so close. Again, the Eagles, in these division games at the end of the season, one team's out of it, another team's fighting for a playoff spot. They always love to give them a little shot and knock them out. So, I think the Eagles will have a lot of pride this week, but, I think the Giants win the game and, a little closer than everybody thinks. I think between 7 and 10 points. I could see it being a, 21-10 game, 21-13, something like that.
Which brings my next point. Be careful, bettors out there. Interdivisional home dog. Eagles are getting 3. Be careful.
That's right.
Be careful.
Always in the back of your head, especially on Thursday night. But I think the Eagles will just have a tough time putting some points.
Well, Tony, look at the bright side. If by some stretch of the imagination the Eagles find a way to win this game, we'll have you back on the show for cleaning up the mess of the Thursday night game, and we can talk about what the blue hell happened, because I don't think it's going to happen either. I think the Giants win this game.
You could be back twice in 3 days, Tony. That'd be phenomenal. How about that?
There you go.
Well, you won't answer the phone next time, but that's okay. We'll take a road trip to North Jersey. We'll find them. Not a big deal.
There you go.
Look on location.
Exactly. So that's all the time we have. Obviously, Tony's with us. We think the Giants are going to win this week. Tony, we want to thank you for getting on such short notice. We appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, have a good holiday Christmas season, all right?
We will, absolutely. You as well. And remember, guys, we always got good stuff coming at the Sports Box.
Absolutely. And you know where to find it by now if you watch any of our shows, but I'll give you a bit of a recap just in case you're new to the show. We're on Twitter at SportsBox Show. We're also on Facebook. You can find us there and like everything that we're doing there. Everything gets posted there when we do it. And, of course, a YouTube channel, which is where everything always goes. All of our new content is there first and foremost, so why don't you go ahead and subscribe so you know when all the new stuff's coming out.
Bigger and better. Sports Box just keeps getting growing and keeps growing. Thanks for watching us. We appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. Remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters, Brian,
It's here.
it's
right
only here. Get all your information here. Thanks for watching. See you.
Don't forget to subscribe.